new to kayak fishing tournaments like me, you're probably doing this all wrong. So after kayak fishing for almost an entire year, I decided this year I finally wanted to do some in-person kayak fishing tournaments. So I kind of planned and plotted during the winter, and as the first tournament rolls around, we had really bad weather here, so I wound up missing the first two rounds of our local series that I wanted to do here. So the first in-person tournament that I did was on the Holston River, and that brought a challenge in itself. I had never fished a river from a kayak before, and I had never fished this river. And let me tell you, that was a big mistake. One, I did not know the river very well. And two, I did not know what to expect river fishing. Let's just say that I put in a lot of hours that day. It was a lot of frustration. I wound up catching one 9-inch bass that didn't even register for the tournament, and I wound up finishing dead last in the tournament. If you want to see that experience, I will link that video right here for you, and you can watch that entire experience or the entire failure of that trip along with me. Now, after that first trip, I was actually pretty excited because I accomplished two things. Didn't have any issues that day, wound up fishing that river with no problems. I just was not using the correct baits or the correct colors. Now, fast forward a few weeks later, I just did my second in-person tournament on the South Holston Lake, and it's pretty local to me, so it's about a 35-minute drive from my house. And a couple days before, the tournament directors decided that we were going to change the lines in time from 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So I got up 4 o'clock that morning, hit the road, got to the marina on the place that I was going to launch, and I was on the water by 6 a.m. so I could get to the location that I wanted to start fishing first and be ready to hit the lines in at 6:30 on the dot. And I accomplished that, and it was a slow morning, but we also had bass tournaments going on for boats. That was the kickoff weekend, and there was a ton of bass boats there, so it was constant just wakes, boats passing by nonstop. Didn't really have to fight or for position or worry about the bass boats in the area I was fishing. Now, this is an area that I had pre-scouted and an area that I have fished quite a bit, and I've caught fish here. I think at 9 o'clock when I checked the results, we had one angler in our group that had caught a 14-inch smallmouth bass, and that was it. So there was only one person that had caught a fish up to that point. So it was a pretty slow morning in general. We had rain moving in, supposed to by late morning into midday, and the rain kind of held off long enough, but the bites were still slow. I threw every single thing that I had brought with me. Now, mind you, the week of this tournament, I spent hours right here on this carport going through my lures, my baits, organizing my black pack, organizing my little track packs. And how I wanted to do this is I wanted my little track packs to have, one of them would have my chatter baits, my spinner baits, things like that. The other one would have more soft plastics, and these were things that I could quickly just grab and switch to. And I spent countless hours pre-rigging, getting everything ready, and that tournament wound up netting me one massive bite and a fish on, and it threw the hook. That video will be coming out next week, but it's still a learning experience for me. It started raining. It rained pretty good after lunch. I had prepared for the rain. I had bought frog togs. I had took special precautions to try to keep my prosthetic legs from getting wet. They are waterproof, but you know when you get wet, you can get uncomfortable. And when my prosthetic legs get wet, it can make for a miserable day. Knowing that we were going to fish till 3, we were meeting up at a boat ramp pretty close at 4 o'clock to close out the tournament, which means I was getting home, 5 o'clock or later. So I did everything I could to stay dry. But the fishing experience, that was the brutal part. After hearing some of the other anglers talk about some of the lures that they were catching fish on, I kind of narrowed down what the issue was, and I just had the wrong colors. When you're new into kayak fishing, you try to buy things that people tell you that typically work to catch bass and other things like that. Now, I'm still fairly new to bass fishing, especially from a kayak. I have bass fished some, but it's been more banks, it's been more rivers, things like that. Not a lot of lake fishing. I have done a lot of big fish, cats, carp, things like that. So that is my forte when it comes to fishing. So the learning curve for bass fishing for different times of the year, it can be pretty brutal. I have bought tackle since last year and thought I had everything that I needed, but definitely missing some of the key colors that I needed. And it got me thinking. I spent countless hours here preparing, plotting for this tournament. Had the mindset that this is a lake that I know really well and I was going to do really good, and I completely stunk up the show. And I think I attribute that just to being a rookie and not having all the gear that I needed. For you ones that are kayak fishing in the tournaments, what advice do you have to try to simplify the day during kayak fishing tournaments when you're frustrated and you're just not getting the bites? What is the one thing that you do to kind of regroup? Drop me a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. So I look at these tournaments, not really where I fish. Yes, I'm very competitive. When I enter a tournament, my mindset is I'm going to go out there and I want to finish in the top 3. I'm just a very competitive person. I have been all my life. So I really had the mindset that I knew this lake and I was going to be one of the top guys. But you get humbled really, really quick. There's some really good fishermen out there. They're on their game. They know their stuff. They know what lures, what colors to use. But I took this tournament as motivation and fuel to learn. I don't run forward-facing sonar on my kayak. I run a pretty simple setup. I run a Garmin Striker 9 with a side view. I just upgraded to that. I had been running a Garmin Striker 4, mainly for water temps and depth, things like that. So I'm in the learning curve of learning the side view and figuring all this out on the go. But for me, it's motivation. We got another tournament in 2 weeks. It's on another lake that I haven't fished at in a while, but I know this lake pretty good. I used to live a while back on this lake and fish this lake quite heavily, but it's changed over the years. So I'm really excited about this tournament. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to plan my day better. You think when you do these kayak tournaments, if the line's in at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you have till 3 o'clock, you've got 8-9 hours to get it done. But you quickly realize when you're out on the kayak, time gets away from you quickly. Before you know it, you have fished 2 to 3 hours, And if you're not on the fish, you're playing catch up from early morning on. And the later the day goes, the tougher a lot of times it gets to start pulling in those fish. If you're strictly worrying about the results, then the pressure starts mounting more and more. I don't necessarily worry about, that I'm down at the bottom during a tournament. I'm doing this for a learning experience because my end goal in doing this is I want to get comfortable fishing these kayak tournaments because this is something that I really want to do full time, long term. When my channel finally gets monetized and I'm able to start making money off of YouTube and sponsorships and things like that, the plan would be to start doing more traveling, more in person tournaments because that's what I really enjoy. And that leads me to my next segment is the cost with doing these kayak fishing tournaments. If you're doing more of your local tournaments, it's going to be a closer drive to you, but I'll just take example the the first two tournaments that I have done. One was about an hour drive from my house. The other one, let's just say it was 40 minutes from my house. That is a tank of gas. Right now, for me to fill up my truck on empty, pushing $90. So that's $90 right off the bat that you're spending for fuel. If you need baits or you've got to replenish baits, you can probably plan on anywhere between another $50 to $100. You've got to have fishing line, braid, mono, whatever you're throwing. A lot of times you've got to change out your line. You got to put fresh line on, or if you're like me and you get wind knots and backlashes and hung up all the time, you lose a lot of your line when you break off. So you've got to have extra line on hand for when you need to re-spool. You've got to have plenty of water, plenty of snacks, food to take with you because these days get long. You burn calories like you would not believe all day long. So you've got tournament fees. The one we do, it's $40 per tournament. If you want to fish for the Angler of the Year and try to qualify, that's an extra $30 club fee. So every weekend, if you're doing these tournaments, you're $40 a pop, plus gas, plus food, other baits, things like that. You could easily spend $200 to $300 on a local tournament just to fish for one day. Now, if you travel to do these tournaments, you're looking at hotel expenses to stay somewhere if you're not camping. But a lot of times you have camping fees, your fuel cost is going to be more. Some of these other tournaments may have a higher cost that you have to pay. So for one weekend to be able to do a fishing tournament, you could be $300 to $500 easy by the time you pay your fees, fuel, food, and stay. So it adds up really, really quick. One of the areas too that I'm slowly learning with kayak fishing that the people that you fish with are awesome. I have to say the Tri-Cities kayak anglers that's the local tournament that I'm doing. And these guys have been great. They've been helpful. You can shoot them a message, question. They've been very helpful. My first tournament, not ever fishing on the river, they were giving me some insights on which boat launches that were within our boundaries to use and kind of giving me a little bit of layout of the land to make it a little bit easier. And when I got to the boat ramp that morning, there was 3 or 4 of us there, and one of the guys, Sam, had gave me his cell phone number, said, hey, if you need anything, just shoot me a text. And that's really what our industry is. Right there is how it should be. We look out for each other. This is a brotherhood of anglers out on the water that are supporting each other, supporting this sport, and we're trying to grow it. You do the right things, and that's how it should be in these kayak fishing tournaments. But when you're talking about rigging your kayak, A lot of times you can overcomplicate it, which is what I've done quite a few times. I have overpacked thinking I will need stuff only to find out that I didn't even use half the stuff that I took with me because I'm so focused and dialed in that I really forget half of the stuff that I bring. Now, the last trip, having my little track packs there, to me, that was more beneficial. It was there right in front of me. I kind of knew what was in there, and every time I was getting a bait out, lure to switch, I would see some of the other baits and remember that I had packed those and I already had pre-rigged those and set those up. So keeping it more simple with the necessities that you need sometimes can be a lot less stressful. Why do you really need to take things that you're not going to use and just have extra stuff on your kayak? That's probably the one thing that I'm learning is I just need to simplify more. Maybe not as many rods as I've been taking. The lures that I'm probably not going to use, just pull those out, leave those here, and only take the things that I'm really going to need that day and focus on those things. So that would be my one piece of advice if you're new to kayak fishing or kayak fishing tournaments is there is a little bit of stress in these, especially if you've never done them. And the less stress you have to worry about on your kayak with things being everywhere, the less stressful of a day you're going to have. Pre-planning your fishing trips. It's always good if you get a chance and you can pre-fish the area when you're having these tournaments. Unfortunately, I work a full-time job. I don't get off till 5 o'clock, so by the time I get home, there's only a few hours before dark. So by the time I even got loaded up and got to somewhere, I'm probably going to have an hour max before it starts getting dark. And then I've got to drive home, get up at 5 o'clock the next morning, and do the work day all over again. So then it comes to the weekend, and that's your key moments that you get to fish. But now we're getting into late spring, early summer, and boating season is going. The lake levels have come up, so the lake's going to be more crowded. So your weekend fishing is just going to be crowded. There's going to be boats nonstop. We getting into the rainy part of late spring, early summer. So typically, for whatever reason, the rain gods think that it should rain every weekend and be pretty during the week when you are working, so you always have the weather and the wind to factor in. Big question is the kayak fishing tournaments worth it? Well, that really depends on you. Do you like the competition side of kayak tournaments? Some people don't. Some people don't want the stress, they don't want the added cost, they don't want the frustration. I totally understand that. Some people like the challenge. Some people like the competition. That is me. I think for me personally, it really pushes me out of my comfort zone. It helps me to be a better angler. That's the one reason why I don't want forward-facing sonar is I don't want to be staring at a screen nonstop looking for fish. I want to learn how to read structure off of my fish finder. I want to learn how to read the water, know what colors and baits that I need to use to make me a better fisherman. I do not want to rely on a screen attached to my kayak to do that. I want to be able to start learning how to read these things and adjust on the fly or every trip. I also like the competition side of it because that's just how I've been geared all my life. I have someone that is a bilateral amputee. You know, for me, I feel like all my life I have to prove myself, not to other people, but I have to prove things to myself. And that's how I'm wired, and that'll never change. For the kayak fishing part, I enjoy the competition part. I think being under the gun a little bit and the stress kind of also makes you adapt more, and it makes you a better fisherman because then you have to start thinking outside the box. Well, do me a favor, if you fish kayak tournaments right now, tell me how your experience has been, especially like your first couple trips. How did your first couple trips go? Did you want to keep going, or did you feel like hanging it up after your first trip or two? Drop me a comment down below and let me know. Hey, I appreciate you watching this video. If you don't mind, hit the like and subscribe button, give me a follow. I'm going to be documenting this journey, the struggles, the failures, maybe some wins in these tournaments, hopefully, or at least some good finishes. But I think these videos are really important because I think it helps new anglers coming in to say, yeah, I see these people struggling, but they're still at it and they're still enjoying it. Stay tuned. Watch for the video drop. Appreciate you watching. Did you get that too?